Don't forget to check out the Sunset Lounge. Check out patreon.com/Sunset Lounge DFW. There you will find, among other things, Beer 30 Sports O'Clock. This is your favorite go-to for discussing craft beer and breweries, all things sports, but mainly college football. Ziggy is the host. He gives you real barbershop sports talk and gives you the tips you need before you lay down those bets. So check out Beer 30 Sports O'Clock and all the great stuff we have for you here at the Sunset Lounge.
Nobody would have thought that I would be the one. Rhyner, sports talk. Baseball, 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 baseball.
Oh, with the big mic. Oh, okay. All right, yeah. Okay, now I get it.
We had a lightning strike, boys. What happened over there, Grego? We had a little lightning strike right outside the window.
The Texas Rangers win the World Series.
All right. Here's a tip for all these Americano League teams.
Wait, you said tip?
Yeah, tip.
Okay.
With a P.
Keep jamming.
The ticket, colon, nothing but a big Gen X jerk-off sake. This is a cool night or what? Although somebody would hear that and go, bullshit.
I'm back, bitches.
And hey, everybody. Hi, how are you today? I hope you're doing well because I'm doing great. It's another day of your dark companion, and we are back in here inside the nurturing biosphere of the mothership, and we are doing episode 103. Oh, we've already done 3 or 2 since 100?
Sure.
You don't say that with very much certainty.
We did.
We did.
Yeah.
It's a whole
Last
thing.
Wednesday and Thursday, we did our bar takeover.
Oh, yeah, I guess that counts for something. But yes, we have now done 100 of these things, and we are slouching toward another 100. I would be Mike Rhyner in here today, your host of Your Dark Companion. We have Shoopy, Ashley, Mickey, Beckham, everybody in here today. And today we're going to get in touch with a very old friend of mine, if I may coin the words of the great Jackson Brown. This is a guy that we've been sitting here talking about how long we've known each other. And I guess we'll just pick up the story from there, because the guy in here today, you know him, you love him. You've heard him on various radio stations around our Fairburg. You've seen him on Mavericks TV. You've seen him on all kinds of other TV, because he is a media gadabout of the highest order, and he's great at all of it. He is the great Chris Arnold.
Yeah.
Hey, Mike, what's going on? Or as I say, what's going on, Wolf? Can I say what I always said when the hard line used to come on after my show? I would always introduce Mike and Grego and say, hard as steel and steel getting harder. Ladies and gentlemen, the hard line. Remember that?
I do. I like that.
But we go back way further than that.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. We've been sitting here tossing it around just how long we've known each other and all the things we have seen each other. So that's probably what you're in for here today, because I've seen Chris in some time now.
Yes, a cameo at the Mavericks game. You guys came to the Mavericks game for a minute.
Yeah.
But I hadn't seen and talked to you in a long time.
No, we haven't talked for
years.
Long time, especially not in a format like this.
Right.
We can actually get into some stuff.
Right.
If you want to. How you been?
I've been doing great. I have no complaints. Wife and kids are fine. Family's good. I'm happy. So,
How many kids you got down?
3. We got Pam and I. Actually, this is the craziest thing. Pam and I met a long time ago. This is the craziest thing. Her friend wanted to be a ticket chick.
Oh, really?
And they drug her to the tryout. And I met her at, what was the name of that bowling alley in North Oak Cliff? That was a concert venue.
The Bronco Bowl.
The Bronco Bowl.
Yeah.
I met my wife, Pamela, at the Bronco Bowl.
Really?
Where she was there with her friend to try out to be ticket chicks. And then we started dating. The next thing you know, we got married. We got 3 kids. We got 2 girls, Sanai and Cameron, and our son Alex. He's on the TCU track team, running the 800 meters.
So you got one in college already, huh?
The 2 are older than him. Time flies.
Damn.
I started late. Pam's a little younger than me.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's it's okay to get a little younger at that position.
Yeah, exactly. That's what so what was so great is her mom and dad are close to my mom and dad's age, and her brother is my age, and she was like a surprise baby at the end there. So she's got a lot of things in common with me, and I got a lot of things in common with her because, in this kind of business, we're always up to date on stuff. But she also knows a lot of the old music. She knows all the other good stuff. She's very sensible. She's very mature for her young age at the time.
Yeah.
She's a little bit older now. She is a little bit more seasoned now.
I'm a granddad now.
I know. I heard all about that. Congratulations. Time flies.
Yeah, it does. It does. All right. Like I say, it's been a long time since we have been in touch, and I know you are a man of you're a guy who always had about 9 different irons in the fire.
Yeah, I stay busy.
If you weren't busy, you weren't happy.
Exactly. And Tom Joyner, back in the day, when I was working with him at K104, he used to say he called himself the hardest working man in radio, and he would call me Jamaican because I had so many jobs. He said, "You must be Jamaican." I said, "I have to have a lot of things going on so I won't get bored." So I have to say this. Tom was a huge influence in my radio career, but so were you. And we'll get into that as the conversation. Huge influence in my career. Now, I'll explain why as we go through the job.
Yeah, I want to know that. I mean,
you said, what did I do?
I mean, by the time we were doing anything together, you had already done so much,
Yeah.
Done just about everything.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so let's get the career arc going here so we can explain why you are so significant in my career. Okay, I started in radio when I was 14 in Memphis, Tennessee. Now, as you know, back then in the 70s, you had to have an FCC license to be on the air. And I got on the radio because I'm listening to Rick Dees. He was based out of Memphis back then.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I did not know that.
He was based out of Memphis, and he was doing the Disco Duck out of Memphis. And then he got big time and went to L.A. and became syndicated. But I'm listening to Rick Dees, and I'm like, I listened to his station, and I listened to WLOK, and I wanted to be on the radio. And I asked my dad to take me down there to see what it was like. And back then, they'd show you around. And they said, "We need a teenager's voice. Can you read this copy?" So I read the script. It was commercial or promo. And so they use it, and I said, "I really want to be on the radio. Get the FCC license, and you can start working up here." So I started working up there first as a high school football reporter for my high school. They put me on the air on Friday nights for the football scores.
Right.
Scoreboard show. And then I wanted to be a DJ, so weekend DJ. And that's what I was doing in high school. Popular guy around town. Had all the big names at our high school dances. The Barcades played at our Snowflake Ball. Confunction played. For those of you who don't know Confunction is, Bruno Mars has a song called Love Train. Confunction wrote it and did it first, and they played at my prom. So that's how far back I go with. So in Memphis, I was doing real big. I went off to Oklahoma, University of Oklahoma, to get my degree in journalism. And when I was there, I was on the radio there. Not just the campus station for a couple of months. I was on in Oklahoma City at KAEZ FM. That was an R&B station, and I was the music director there. And then I got stolen away by The Cat, which is a premier album rock station. So they stole me away from KZ. And I'm working my way through college. I mean, I was doing 7 to midnight.
All right, now what year are we talking about here?
Oh, this is in 1978.
And you're how old?
19.
Okay.
19, about to be 20.
Okay.
And then when I graduate, I'm thinking, I'm going back to Memphis to be a DJ. And then I'll go to New York, LA, and be a big time DJ like Rick Dees. And they said, "We want you to be our morning drive guy at the Memphis station." That was the FM 100 in Memphis. And I said, "Okay, I'm there." And then all of a sudden, the program director calls me back and says, the national PD has some guy in Boston. They're trying to float down here. So we got to humor him for a while, not let him be on the air, but I got to talk him in because you're from Memphis. Everybody knows you from when you were in high school. And I said, okay, I'll wait. Now, you know how it goes. It's like, wait a minute. What if the national PD gets his way? I don't have my job in Memphis. So I said, okay, let me put out a resume tape. So what does that have to do with Texas? Because I didn't know anybody in Texas. I had only gone to Dallas for OU Texas games. That was it. But being a DJ in Oklahoma, whenever the concerts came through, I was the MC for the concerts. Quite a few of them. And since I was working in R&B, disco, and rock, I had all kinds of people I was emceeing concerts for, interviewing with. And so I knew all the record reps. And since I was music director at KZ, I knew all the record reps. And then the concert promoter said, hey, when I would do the spot for the concerts, this one concert promoter down here who's based out of Dallas, he said, I want you to do all the spots from my region, which is Oklahoma, Texas, Arkansas, and Louisiana. So I was telling him.
Who would this have been?
The late, great Rufus Shaw.
Okay.
And people say, who's Rufus Shaw? Rufus Shaw was a track star at SMU.
Yeah.
And then he stopped running track and he got on TV with Wolfman Jack on the Midnight Special. So he was on the Midnight Special with Wolfman Jack. And then he comes back to Dallas and he's this was long after I was already here. Then he became a writer and he was writing blogs and he's kind of like Jim Schutze. That's what he was doing back in the 90s. But anyway, 1980.
Didn't he go to Lincoln too?
No, yeah, he might have. I know he's from Dallas. I knew he grew up in Dallas. And it makes sense. I think he did go to Lincoln.
This is a name that I know.
Because he was a fast man. SMU
he was a track guy?
Yeah. They broke the national
at Lincoln,
record.
they had the Pounceys.
Yeah, the
Gene and Joe Pouncey.
twins, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I think that he was part of that relay team. Rufus Shaw was part of that relay team.
He might have been because I know he was the relay team at SMU and they broke the national record in the 4x400.
You know what?
But we digress.
We digress. I might be so full of shit about all that, it's not even funny.
So
if I am, I just knocked you off course. And I apologize to everyone about that.
No, it adds more texture to the story. So Rufus Shaw is the only person I know out of Dallas, and he says, I got some stations for you. I want you to go see, and you can use me as a reference. I want you to go by K104. I want you to go by the Rock and Roll Zoo where you were working. He said, I want you to go by Q102 and go by KRLD. I go to K104 first. The late, great Chuck Smith. I'm sitting there with him. He says, we have no DJs positions available, but I'm talking to you because Rufus Shaw, and I'm looking at your resume and I see you've done sports. I said, yes, I have done sports because when I was in Oklahoma, I also was an intern at the NBC affiliate up there with the late great Bob Berry, and I was like their sports intern. And also when I was on the campus station, I did some OU football games and some OU basketball games. But I'm a DJ.
Yeah.
Because I swear I'm going to conquer the world being a DJ. And he said, guess what? We're a full-service radio station. We not only play R&B, we got news team, we got weather, we got traffic, and we are going to start sports. And we think you'd be the perfect fit. I said, not interested. And he said, wait, but you get to cover not just the high school and the colleges, SMUTC, you would get to cover the Cowboys, the Rangers. They had no hockey team yet. And this new team that's about to start up called the Dallas Mavericks. Mavericks hadn't even had a draft yet. This was like late April of 1980. They just got Reunion Arena built.
Yeah.
And they hadn't even named Mata the head coach yet. Norm Sanju and Don Carter were here. And I was like, not interested. And I said, well, wait a minute. And I started thinking, Dallas is a top 5 market. I don't want to have to go to some little town and work my way up somewhere. That Memphis thing, what if it falls through? I said, okay, Chuck, I'll do this only if you allow me to be a DJ if something opens up, if you seriously consider me. He said, yeah, we can do that. So I started working at K104 doing sports, and then they just started letting me do everything in the world of sports because I kept getting it done. So the caveat, and this is where you get ready to come in. The caveat was K104, like I said, we were affiliated with Associated Press, and they would let me cover everything local. Cowboy games. See, I was a sports director, so I had to come up with the credentials too. I had to, try to get the credentials. You sign or you type and apply. That's what we're doing. You apply for your credentials. And so I was getting the credentials, and they said, as long as you make sure that you get one-on-one interviews, we'll let you do even more. I said, okay. Because they said, we can get any kind of press conference interviews. We want one-on-ones. So I said, okay. Well, back in 81, there's this big fight in Vegas, Tommy Hearns and Sugar Ray Leonard. And I wanted to cover it, and I applied for the credentials. And while I was applying for it, they said, no, you can't do that. I said, why not? Oh, it's too expensive. I said, okay. So I just forgot about it. Then 2 days before the fight, they said, guess what? Coca-Cola will sponsor round by round of you doing updates from the fight. You can go. I said, well, let me see if I can find a hotel. Let me see if I can find a flight. Because this is a big fight. Let me see if I can get those credentials. I found a overnight flight on a Thursday night to do the Friday mornings from there, the Friday morning show with Joyner. I do the morning show. I have no credentials yet. I go to Caesar's Palace where they're having a fight out on the tennis court. They've got this big tent for the media. It's a media tent. I go inside the media tent. I know the PR person's name. And I tell him, I'm here. You were looking at my credential, but I never heard from you again. He goes, oh my God, they sent you here anyway? I said, yeah. I said, I don't know. We have to see what we can do. We got to see if somebody doesn't show up. And so I'm there with all these writers. And by the way, Skip Bayless is there. And at this point, we had, I hate to say this, but Mike, you know this story. Skip Bayless got his broadcasting start on K104. We hired Skip to do a 1-minute update. At the time, he was just on the Times Herald, and Chuck said, it'd be a good time. Let's get Skip and have him do an update. So anyway, Skip.
I have a hiring of Skip Bayless on my resume, too.
See, we got a lot in common. So I'm out here in Vegas. Skip's in the tent. He said, hey, I'm sitting there in a seat just waiting. You got all these writers. You got some other broadcast people, some other local media people from Dallas or people I've seen at games. And they're, hey, Chris, what are you doing here? I said, I'm hoping to get my credential. I'm just sitting right here. This is in the afternoon. I'm waiting and waiting. They got security all over the place. I have no credential. The preliminary fights are going on. I have no credential. I'm sitting there. I'm like, I got to have round by round updates from this fight. And by the way, there's no internet back in 1981. All I had was my Comrex that I could screw into a telephone.
Yes, the dual line Comrex.
The dual line Comrex. And I could not even see the fight in that tent. So thinking fast, all the different media guys were going out to their seats at ringside. But a few would linger and want to type. You know how they want to type the stories out. And I'm like, there's got to be a seat out there. And then there's a security guy right there. I said, hey, Bobby, you've been seeing me here all afternoon. You know I'm in the media. You've seen the media guys talking to me. You've seen the PR guy telling me, please let me go in. I got to do this for Coca-Cola round by round. He goes, I don't think so. Now, by the way, K104, Chuck was very smart. He gave me a whole bunch of $20 bills to take with me because I was like, where am I going to stay? I paid this security guy $20. Go in, go out. $20 go in and out. Every round cost me $20. But I got the update, and then I got the one-on-ones. And when I came back, they were, I told Chuck the whole story, how it went down. And he said, yes, as long as you do one-on-ones, we'll send you anywhere you want to go. So I got to cover 28 Super Bowls, 22 NBA Finals, 21 NBA All-Star games, 16 Final Fours, 8 World Series, 8 Baseball All-Star games, 5 Pro Bowls, 2 Stanley Cups, the World Cup, the Olympics, Cowboys home and road games on the charter, Mavericks home and road games, boxing matches, championships, everything you can think of. I got to cover it all as long as I got one-on-ones. And what helped my career extend, I got to know all those sports figures as opposed to just doing gangers and doing press. So it's like, hey, there's the guy, there's Chris Arnold, there's the light-skinned guy with the fro, And I was kind of like their age, and I wasn't married at the time, so I'm hanging out with them, And so you say, where do I come into this? So this is where Mike comes in. I kid you not. I'm doing all these different things, and all my peers around here, they all impressed with me and stuff. the national guys, my peer groups nationally, because I'm covering all these things, Michael Will Bond, Stephen A. Smith, I've been knowing them since they were just writers. And so, because they were at the same big events. And so, where do you come along? Well, for some reason, I still wasn't considered credible because I'm working at a music station. You worked at the zoo, so he and I were doing sports from music stations, and I would tell him from time to time, man, I don't know what I can do. I'm doing everything, and people just not think I'm a real reporter. And I got a degree in journalism, but they just don't think. And the hardest credential I ever had to get was Final Four credentials. Even Channel 8 couldn't get a Final Four credential. So at one point, I'm working at K104. They let me work at Channel 8. And I also had a TV show called On the Beam. It was a music video show.
Yes.
So I'm doing all this stuff, and I'm like, but I got different, especially the print media guys. They didn't like us anyway.
No.
They called Randy Galloway, who's our friend, he just called us Goldie Throats.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I need credibility on this. One day, Mike tells me, where all the radio guys called at the back of the bus up there at the Texas Rangers or Arlington Stadium. We'd sit in our own little booth because the real media, the print media, didn't want us in the booth with them.
Because we made too much noise.
We made too much noise. So the guys in the back of the bus, me, Mike, Grego, George, Craig, sound like the ticket, doesn't it? Well, guess what? Mike said, hey, Chris, I think we're going to start up this new radio station. And I said, really? I'm on K104. I'm not even thinking it could be done. So they start up the radio station. And they have Skip Bayless, and they have Kurt Menefee, and then they have the Musers, they have the Hardline, and the Sports Princess.
Yes.
Kate Delaney.
Delaney, yes.
And I'd always told Mike, man, I'd love to do a talk show because nobody's taking me seriously. He said, they're taking it. I said, no, they just don't. And so when Kurt Menefee left to go to New York, Mike and I met at a restaurant. And Mike said, do you think? And I said, I have to talk to the owner.
Yeah. This is one of these, is there any way that we could
Possible.
make this work situation? Because,
Yeah.
I mean, he was, I wanted you for that gig.
Yeah,
I wanted you for that
said
gig, but
You can't work in two stations in one city.
No,
And it
you
just
can't.
doesn't
And
happen.
I knew I could never pry you away from K104.
Right.
And yeah, you just can't do that.
You can't do that. And so I was
Especially under the same name. Maybe if you have like an alias or
no, they would know
something,
my
but even
voice.
then, yeah.
No, they recognize
You
the
can't.
voice. But here's where it actually was able to happen. So remember, I said I worked with Tom Joyner for 8 years, and for 6 or 7 of those years, he was flying back and forth to Chicago, and the way he was able to work in 2 radio stations in different markets was his contract had expired in Dallas at K104, and he had been in Chicago years before that. So what he told me at the time when it all happened, and he made national headlines flying back and forth, was he signed both contracts at the same time and nobody knew who belonged to who first. So he signed the contract at the same time. Well, while I was trying to work out the deal where I could be on the ticket, because I was talking to the owner, Hyman Childs, too. He and I are great friends to this day. I would not have the career I had if it wasn't for Hyman and Chuck. Because I would always talk to Hyman every day in his office about, he loved to hear the adventures of all the different things I'm covering. And he said, no, King, you can't work in the same market in the same state. I said, but it's an AM station. We're FM, and it's sports, and we're full service, but I can elaborate more. No, King, we can't do that. We just can't do that.
King? He
Called everybody King.
Oh.
Not just me personally.
Okay.
That's a nickname. He had some ratings, he called you King. He called Tom King. He called everybody had some ratings King. And so Hyman and I went for a walk around Grand Prairie. That's what station was located. We're walking around downtown Grand Prairie trying to talk him. I'm trying to talk him into let me do this. I can't let you do it, King. Can't do it. So I talked to Tom. I said, Tom, and that's when he was telling me about the contract at the same time. I said, Tom, there's gotta be a way, because my contract is up. And I'm not signed with anybody yet. Right now, I'm not signed. He said, well, when I did it, Hyman wouldn't talk to me for about 2 or 3 years. He said, he won't speak to you no more. I said, I'm going to have to take that chance. And so I did it. I started working at the Ticket. I wrote Hyman a note, and I promised him, I said, Hyman, we will be number one, still number one on the morning show, Skip Murphy and Company. I promise you, I'm going to work as hard on both stations, and we might even get more listeners because it's an AM sports station. There might be people on that sports station that have never listened to K104. And so Hyman didn't speak to me for about 8 years. But we did speak later. After I quit the Ticket, we started speaking again, and he is still one of my dear friends. But Mike, you allowed me the opportunity to host a talk show. And here's something a lot of people don't know. I had never done a talk show. I just wanted to do a talk show, and everybody had a co-host except me. So I said, Mike, can you be my co-host for a little while?
Oh,
So he was my co-host.
I didn't know
he was
that.
doing the hardline, and he was co-hosting for, what was it, about a week?
Yeah, I was just kind of babysitting you a little bit.
Making
just to
sure I
make
wouldn't fall off the bicycle.
Yeah.
So Mike,
I was just kind of his trainer wheels for about a week.
Yeah. So first,
But then I learned he's a big boy. He can do this.
yeah. So initially, when I joined the Ticket, Skip Bayless was still on in the mornings, and then it was my show, 10 to noon. Then it was the Hardline. No,
There's the Musers.
it was the Musers. Then it was the Hardline, and then it was Coop,
Yeah.
Chuck Cooperstein. Then Skip left. Musers go to the mornings. It was Musers, me. Then you guys flipped with Coop. You stuck around for a little while. I mean, the Hardline after me for a while.
Yeah, they
Yeah, because I didn't introduce you guys. It was Hardline after me for a while.
yeah, that's right.
And then you guys flipped with Coop. No, Coop left. No, he got fired. He got himself fired.
whoops.
And
was a bad
talks
move.
about
Bad
the
move.
higher authority was our credibility. I swear to God. And one other thing I related to, you not just only working at the zoo and a music station, but working at K104 and still working my butt off doing all these different things. When the Ticket started, it was the little Ticket because nobody thought it was real or it would last. So my whole deal was I've always felt like I was an underdog and I wanted to help join the underdogs. You know what I mean? And so we were all friends anyway.
Yeah.
But you had huge influence on my life. And at one point, I wound up working at K104 because they didn't fire me. Thank God. K104 in the mornings, then the Ticket. I was still working
Just
at
for the
Channel 8.
record, I mean, then or now or any other time, I cannot imagine a scenario where K104 ever fires you for doing anything unless it
never did.
Unless it gets in the papers or something like that.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. I've been there from 1980, and I did. I to this day, I'm very flattered. I'm still part of family for life at K104. But I was working at Channel 8 at the time as well. When I was working at K104, they let me work at Channel 8. Then they let me work at Fox Sports Southwest to do Maverick stuff. Kevin Sullivan, the Mavericks PR guy back then, who went off to the White House with George W. Bush, and now he's with the Bush Library, and he's got his own PR firm. He's just the greatest. Sully said, hey, can you work with us on our TV broadcast? What Skin Wade does now. He said, can you be our courtside analyst? They didn't have one then. Back then, it was me, Bob Ortegal, and the late, great Jim Durham. That was your Mavericks. And I did that for 8 years. But K104 let me do that. And by the way, Dale Hansen at Channel 8 let me do that too.
Yeah.
Because I said, let me ask Dale, because I'm a reporter for Channel 8. And so literally there were days where I would do a stand-up for Channel 8 before the Mavericks game, 6 o'clock news. Dale would throw it to me and I'd say, back to you, Dale. And then I'd stand in front of the next camera to do the pregame show for Fox Sports Southwest. And like I said, I was working at the Ticket too. I was doing all those things. And what Mike also let me do is when K104 would let me cover like the NBA Finals. Mike said, yeah, there's some radio stations. Have Corby was my producer. Corby Davis was my producer. Have Corby find out how you get a radio station, let you use their extra studio. So I'm doing my show on the Ticket anywhere K104 let me go, and I wanted to cover something. So I got to do my show from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland, the Radio Hall of Fame in Chicago, because Corby and I would just find places where I could do a radio show.
Yeah.
But seriously, this man right here, Mike Rhyner, you helped me grow my career, get the sports credibility, and literally, I was doing 4 things at the same time at one point. By the time 1999 hit, I was doing 4 shows at once.
Well, I don't know.
And my show-
I think you might be touting my role in all this a little bit too much.
Yeah, you did.
I mean, all I did was recognize talent. That's it.
No, but sometimes people try to micromanage talent, and you didn't do none of that. There are some people, there's some programmers want to do that kind of thing. And I also say this, I would not have gotten into the Texas Radio Hall of Fame if it weren't for Mike, because Mike set up all of this. He set my career, took it to the next level. And I said, Mike, do you think it's possible? He goes, well, I don't know. You might be due. So I got
Sure
to
enough,
join
you
him.
were.
I got to join him and Tom joining. And now the Muses are in there too.
This is the great Chris Arnold
And
here
Norm.
with us today. Yes, Norm. Let's not forget him.
Yeah.
And now,
And Brad Sham.
now it's time for the dreaded mid-roll or mid-show, mid-roll, mid-read, whatever it is.
The middle.
Close enough.
Yes, where I tell you something that's going on here with YDC. A little commercial for the podcast, if you don't mind. Your Dark Companion's first music roundtable, presented by CBD House of Healing, is coming your way. It's the 21st of April at high noon, and it's going down at the storied Kessler Theater right there in Oak Cliff. It will include the Kessler's own Jeff Lyles, Dallas DJ Jeff K, Jesse Hawila, the fabled weatherman of WFAA and several-time guest on Your Dark Companion.
He's a kind of cult following.
Oh, he's awesome.
He's funny.
And the guitarist for the Dirty Knobs and the Eagles, the great Chris Holt, is going to be with us for that day. Now, seating is limited, so you got to tell your boss, tell your school. Lunch is going to be a little long on Monday, 21 April. Get there early, get a seat. Show rolls out at high noon at the Kessler Theater in the Bishop Arts neighborhood of Oak Cliff. So, is that enough?
I hope so.
Is that all there is, Ashley?
Yes.
Or Shoopy, or
You nailed it.
whoever I
Yeah.
have to ask about these things.
We all think you did great.
And you're done.
Sounded
Yeah.
good to me. Yeah, and you're done.
Okay. And I'm done.
Poor Pete Stein.
All right. So run down the gigs you've got now. This has been a wonderful trip down your storied memory lane.
Boy.
You've got one like nobody I've ever known.
It's crazy. And again, your fingerprints are all over it. Just, you don't want to hear, but true. His
I
fingerprints are
might
all
have had a
over.
little something to do with it here and there, but look, that happens for one reason and one reason only, and that's because people know that you're really great,
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that. Thank you.
just like I did.
Yeah. Okay. So my gigs right now, MC for the Dallas Mavericks and sports talk show host on 105.3 The Fan.
All right.
That's it. I've simplified it.
Well, you
I got
have
a wife and 3
simplified it.
kids, and they actually get to see me.
Oh,
Wow, you have simplified it.
Seriously, because I kid you not, K104 let me cover so many things. I have been all over the world, and I enjoyed it. I've been to every major stadium and arena in the country. I've been to all these airports all over the country. I've been to Tokyo. I've been to London a couple of times, Wembley Stadium with the Cowboys, Australia for the Olympics, Mexico with the Cowboys. I go on and on and on, and just name it. And that's because they let me I've been to all these college campuses too, where the crowd's going wild. All the pro stadiums, the legendary ones like Wrigley Field or Lambeau Field, just name them. I've been Candlestick Park. I was there when the earthquake hit at the World Series.
Good Lord.
I was at the World Series when the earthquake hit. Someone asked me one time, "What's the most craziest thing you ever covered?" I said, "It's a tie between the earthquake at Candlestick Park and the World Series, the Giants and the A's, and Mike Tyson biting off Holyfield's ear." I was at that too. That was crazy. So I got some crazy memories. And you know what else? I got these random memories. And so when I'm on the air, I call them CA Stories Confidential. And I'll tell a little, segment, half a segment about some of the craziest things that happened to me over the careers.
What's your favorite stadium or arena or whatever? Or just some of your favorites.
Actually, Lambeau was pretty cool. It was pretty cool because it's like walking back in the time, and it's pristine, and everybody's just crazy, fun, and the whole 9 yards. But it's kept up. It looks old, but it's well kept. It's not like that's an old stadium. It's raggedy. Remember RFK Stadium is raggedy. There's some old stadiums in like Washington D.C. and Philadelphia back in the day. They're just raggedy.
Yeah. I never went up there, but I got to go into Lambeau, not for a game, but I've been inside there. And you're right. It's an old school stadium.
Yeah.
There are no bells and whistles there or anything like that.
But it's immaculate.
But yeah, they keep it so well.
Yeah, and it's pretty much up to date with technology stuff. But you go in there and you're like, wow. But yeah, I'm going to say it's not what's my favorite venue or stadium as much as the things that have happened that I was there for. Like when I went to Dodger Stadium, this is way back in the day. I'm at Dodger Stadium covering the World Series, and I was there when Kirk Gibson hit the home run. But the crazy thing about it is I called it. Let me explain this.
That's big talk there.
Okay. And
something like that needs explanation.
And I've got witnesses. And my number one witness is the play-by-play voice of the Chicago Bulls. His name is Chuck Swirsky. Back then, Swirsky's covering all kinds of stuff, just like I was covering all kinds of stuff. And as you know, you cover the baseball games. At some point, get towards the end of the game, you want to get back there, or in the World Series at least, you want to get there and not only go in the locker room, but you want to get the interviews from the managers and all that in the press area. So we're working our way from the press box over to the press area, and we pass
and
the
this
dugout.
takes place before the game's over.
Yeah, the game is like the 8th inning.
Yeah,
and so we're walking past the Dodgers clubhouse. It's kind of an open area, or the door was open, and I could see Kirk Gibson on the training table. He wasn't even supposed to play. He was on the training table, and they were working on his legs. And I told Swirsky and a couple of these other guys, I said, Kirk Gibson's on the table over there. They go, yeah. And I'm like, what if he plays? What if he gets out there and hits a home run? And they said, nah. We continue our journey to the press box area, and I'll be damned if that's not what happened. And to this day, every time Swirsky sees me, he says, you called it.
Man, I'll bet they just turned around and looked at you like.
I said, even a broke clock is right twice a day. Even a blind squirrel will find a nut. But that was crazy. And so there's different memories for different venues. I'll give you Mexico City Aztec Stadium hosts 110,000 people down there for a Cowboys American Bowl game, which is like a preseason game. And
that holds under 10,000 people?
110,000 people.
110,000.
110,000.
All right, okay.
So we're down there. This was like the mid-90s. This is after Jimmy, Barry Switz was coach. And we're, before the game, go out on the field, walking around with Jerry. And Jerry Jones talking to me, he goes, Mr. Chris, do you realize I'm going to build a stadium as big as this one right here? I said 110,000 people. Now, this is when we were back at Texas Stadium. I said 110,000. Yep, our new stadium is going to be this big. I said, Jerry, what if you don't have a sellout? I mean, what if you have 70,000 people? You have like 30,000 people. You'll have 30,000.
The hell?
Back up.
Was that somebody's phone? Okay. I said, what if it's not sold out and it'll look half full? He said, oh, I've already thought about that. I'm going to have big black curtains covering up the top if we don't have sellouts. I said, oh, yeah? And he goes, and then I'm going to put signage on the curtains. I was like, you have thought about everything. And I swear to God, when they built AT&T Stadium, and I think he had a training camp practices or something. I'll be damned if he didn't have big black curtains around the top. To this day, they've got the big black curtains. And as we all know, whenever the sunlight's on the players' eyes when they're trying to play, everybody's like, pull out the curtains, Jerry. And I'm like, yeah, why won't, I still don't know why he won't pull out those curtains. But he knew back then. And by the way, he also told me this. The reason he wanted to build a bigger stadium, I said, Jerry, Texas Stadium at the time they had more luxury boxes than any stadium in the NFL. I said, so you got, and this is Super Bowl years. It's like, I said, because before he bought the stadium, bought the Cowboys, they couldn't get sellouts. You know, I think the Kroger had to buy them, or Tom Thumb, or somebody had to buy them.
The team had gone bad, and nobody was going anymore, and it kind of became cool for the masses out there to not go to the Cowboys.
Right, because it was bad. And this was Landry's still coach. It's like, he needs to retire. He's slipping. But the point I was trying to make was, Jerry changed all around. He started making the money in the Super Bowls. So he had like sellout crowds, and they had all these sold out, all these suites, more suites than any NFL stadium. And he also had the little Cowboy outside Cowboys corral, all that stuff.
Oh yeah, the corral
and stuff, which is now, if you go to AT&T Stadium, the outside part, those end zone parts outside, that was off of the Cowboys corral stuff. So I asked him, I said, why don't you just enlarge Texas Stadium? He goes, no, I'm leaving too much money on the table. We should have more areas where people can buy Cowboys merchandise and they can buy more liquor. And he's just talking about all the money they're leaving on the table, which is why he came up and made AT&T Stadium as big as it. The only thing that's crazy is it's turned the wrong way. They should not have that light in these players' eyes. And he says, well, that's kind of like, he tried to play it off and says, well, it's kind of like dealing with the elements. You go to Buffalo, you got to deal with some snow. But you can fix the lights with those big old curtains.
Yeah, you can't fix the snow.
No, exactly.
My understanding was he was kind of counting on a bunch of bigger buildings to kind of be built around to help block out some of the sun, and never happened.
But
now he's got to blame other stuff.
It doesn't cost him an extra penny because he's already got the curtains. That's what's amazing to me.
Yeah.
True.
They can't sell the signage.
Yeah. So, yeah. So about all these, like I said, I got a million stories based on just stadiums alone. Like down in Sydney, Australia, I'm down there when they have the Olympics. And by the way, if I ever disappear off the face of the earth, that's where I snuck away to. I really loved Sydney, Australia. It was just beautiful. People are so nice. And they have the Opera House. And I took a boat ride around the Opera House and big bridge down there, and their stadium was just amazing. The fireworks were just amazing. And that was also the year that in basketball, men's U.S. basketball team, Vince Carter jumped over that 7-foot French center, just dunked on his pumpkin head. It was crazy. And all I can say was that was quite the experience, the Olympics down there. But that's another stadium. Oh, yeah, and the flight was just so long. But it wasn't bad because, ironically, on that same flight with me and some other media people were the Brazilian women's volleyball team.
Oh.
And they were having a party. So it was like that one section was having a party.
That's pretty wild, man. That's pretty wild.
I just got crazy stories. I can go on and on and on. Like Candlestick Park is below sea level, so therefore it was always muddy. And same out in Oakland, the A's Stadium that thing was the biggest mess though. Just the biggest mess.
Yeah.
Madison Square Garden was amazing. I've been there in Madison Square Garden for basketball games, boxing, and I want to say I was there for something that wasn't sports related, but the boxing at the Madison Square Garden was just insane. And I'll tell you this. That's where me and Stanley became friends.
Stanley?
Stanley Cup. Everybody else? Yes.
Yeah, I met him. I can't say I'm friends with him, but I have met him.
Well, we got to meet him real good when the Stars won.
Yeah.
But before the Stars won the Stanley Cup, I got to meet Stanley because Mark Messier came to a Knicks game the same year that New York won the Stanley Cup. Nobody thought they'd ever do it. And that's, by the way, I also got to be in a New York ticker tape parade. I was watching it. The thing that amazed me, because you had the high buildings and confetti everywhere. That place was cleaned up by nightfall. I was shocked, because it's New York City. You would have never known they had a parade. They're professionals at that. So the crazy part about it is, at halftime of the Knicks-Rockets game, Messier's there introduced him to the crowd. At halftime. After the game's over, I get through doing my interviews and whatnot. I'm on the elevator with Bruce Smith. The elevator door opens. By the way, Madison Square Garden is like below, and everything goes up, and then you go out onto the streets. So we go up the elevator one level, and Messier in the cup come into the, and so Bruce is there. Messier, hey Bruce, blah, blah. And I said, I'm Chris. I introduced myself, and then I said, can I hold it? And he said, yeah. So I picked it up, and Bruce said, can I kiss it? So Bruce Smith kissed it. And what's so cool about that moment is that anytime I see Bruce Smith and I have randomly run into him, we always talk about, I was in the elevator with you. Oh yeah. And I haven't seen Messier since, but that was pretty cool.
So Madison Square Garden is like below the ground?
Yes. On one side at least. I know on one side at least. Because if you're on the streets, you actually have to walk up some stairs anyway. And then when you're in there, and when we would take, team buses and stuff, you go down some kind of way. I got crazy New York stories. So I'm gonna give you 2 more New York stories. I have been to the top of the Empire State Building with Catman of the Americas, Jeff Catlin. We went up there. I was doing a show over there, my ticket show over there. And so he came out there with me, and the Cowboys were playing on a Monday night game. So I always want to go see stuff you can't see.
Yeah.
Instead of just
Yeah,
going
I've
to a
been there
restaurant.
too.
Yeah. So I went to the top of the Empire State Building with Jeff Catlin. And then I've also been to the top of the World Trade Center, and I did that with Corby. This is before, of course, 9/11. But Corby and I also went to the New York Athletic Club. That's where the Heisman is.
Yeah.
And all that. So we went by there too. So I've also, like I said, Corby was able to find me some places to do, the updates or do my radio show. I got to do my show from Rush Limbaugh's radio studio one time in New York. Is that not crazy?
That's
in
pretty crazy.
And I think Catlin set up that one. But another time I was in New York, remember in this NBA Finals, remember when O.J. Simpson murdered Nicole?
I think I remember that.
Can you jog our memories?
It happened. I'm in New York.
Are we sure? I thought that was just a rumor.
Yeah, I thought that was
no.
a bit.
I want to say he admitted it to the Sports Princess on her little syndicated show years later. So I'm in New York covering the NBA Finals, and this happens, and of course everybody's in shock, right? What? You got to be kidding me! The game is one of those games were being played on the night of the Bronco chase. So we're in Madison Square Garden, and they've got a big TV screen in the press area. And during the game, everybody's little monitor was watching the chase. So at the game, you got Spike Lee's at the game, John F. Kennedy Jr.'s at the game, you got all these celebrities. Nobody's really paying attention to the game. They're just keeping an eye. Has they caught him yet? Has the Bronco pulled over? He's supposed to be committing suicide. Cowens is saying he's got a gun in there. And it's a slow Bronco chase. Okay, so this is the crazy part. The game's over with, or maybe it's halftime. It's halftime. We're in the media area, still watching the chase. Well, the chase is over at this point. OJ's attorney, Kim Kardashian's dad, what's his first name?
Rob.
Rob Kardashian.
Yeah.
He's making, Robert Kardashian. Mm-hmm. He's got the note that OJ left, and it's like the suicide note. And he's reading, and this is live, and we're all standing there watching it. And he says, and I want to say thanks to all of my good friends, blah, 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 blah. He goes, and Ahmad Rashad. Well, I'm standing right next to Ahmad Rashad. Everybody in the room goes, they're all heads whip over, and Ahmad's like a ghost. And I'm standing next to him like this. And then, I kid you not, quietly, Ahmad walks to the side of the room, and they escort him to a limo, and he left. We never saw his ass again. He was gone. I'll never forget that as long as I live.
I guess there's only one thing to do in a situation like that, and that's just get the hell out of there.
Get the hell out of there.
However you can.
Yeah. Yeah, he never did commit suicide, but he had a suicide note, and Ahmad Rashad was listed. So there's just some crazy stuff I've been around.
Man,
Chris, I was going to ask, speaking of Ahmad Rashad, you've seen that he had OJ and Bill Cosby as his groomsmen, right? For his wedding?
Yes.
That's
yeah.
That's a hell of a choice.
Yes, Jello pudding.
How long ago was his wedding?
The 80s?
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah, it had to be back in the 80s when he married Felicia Rashad.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they broke up a little bit after that. He's now married to the ex-wife of the Jets owner, Woody Johnson's wife.
Oh.
That's
really?
who Ahmad Rashad married.
Really?
Cha-ching.
Yeah, I guess so.
Exactly.
I guess so.
Yeah.
All right, so these days you're doing what all?
The Fan and the Mavericks.
Fan of the Mavericks, and that's it.
Yeah, and with the Fan, still do cover all the Cowboy. Well, anything I want to cover, basically. But Cowboy games, pregame show, and you got the sports talk show, not weekly, not daily, but wherever I want to pop in or wherever they want. Because I didn't want to be on all. I mean, it's going to wear me out.
Yeah. All right. Let me ask you this, and I have to ask everybody who comes through here that is in the local media this. Where were you when you heard?
The latest, right? I was laying down about to fall asleep when my son, who goes to TCU, called me and said, "Daddy, they traded Luka." Is that what you're talking about?
That's what I'm talking about.
Yep. And I shot up and I, like everybody else, just get all the details I could.
Who was your first call to? Who'd you call first? Or did somebody call you first?
Oh, everybody was calling me. And I had the same answer that I have today. Basically, it's just stunning. Now you say, can I tell you more? There's nothing more I can tell you, because let me tell you what I tell everybody. This is all serious. People, Nico and Patrick Dumont said they're the ones that made the trade. Whether you know why or believe why, it's all speculation. And conspiracy theories sometimes are better than the facts. Sometimes the facts are boring, or sometimes the facts don't add up, or the facts is like, there just got to be more, because it's arguably the greatest or the most amazing trade that ever happened in history, in sports history. It's like out of the blue, nobody saw it coming. And so,
have you ever seen a bigger thing happen in sports here?
The comps are this, and you were around for all this too. When Jerry Jones first fired Tom Landry, he was on his golf course in Austin. And then Jerry and Jimmy were eating at Tom Landry's favorite Mexican restaurant, celebrating. But we didn't have the internet back then. It was just everybody's, oh, I can't believe it. And then you win a couple. By the way, right after that, they trade Herschel, the only name that they had. And back then, people didn't know the value of draft picks. Jimmy did, but nobody else. How in the hell you traded away Herschel? He's all you had. And by the way, I'm the one that broke that story. I don't know if you knew that.
No, I didn't know that.
Yes, I broke the story. This is how that came down. I'll get back to this. And this is one of the reasons why you helped my career when I was doing a sports talk show, because I broke the story, but some of my peers didn't believe. Well, Herschel told you. I said, Herschel did not tell me. Oh, yeah, he's friends with Herschel. Herschel told us. He didn't really break the story. We knew he was going to get traded somewhere. Everybody thought he was going to be traded to Cleveland if it was going to happen. I said, but this is what happened. Somebody who was in the world of sports, not in the media, who's a friend of mine, told me what was about to happen. And I went, are you? And this person was very, very credible. By the way, this is where I learned you never tell who your sources are. So I
was just about to ask.
So here's what happened on the Herschel trade. I go on the air first thing in the morning. That was late at night, and I said, "You sure?" All the details. So I go on there with all the details and all these different players that could turn into draft picks with Minnesota. And Minnesota, all they needed was a running back, and they're going to the Super Bowl. That's what they thought. And so I go on there with that. Bill Coates, the voice of East Texas now, he was the voice of WBAP Sports back then.
Yeah.
And Bill Coates would listen. He's friends of ours. He would listen to me when I'm on at 5:30 in the morning, and then just to see if I had anything different or whatever, And so he said, according to K104, Chris Arnold, Herschel's been traded to Minnesota. Jerry Orr from Channel 8 heard Coates talking about it. See, this is where I learned about information bubbles too. Because there are people, I'm on the number one station at the time at K104. If you didn't listen to K104, you didn't know. If you didn't listen to WBAP, you didn't know. If you only listen, it's kind of like where we are today. If you only listen to traditional media, you would know. If you only were on Twitter, you only know. If you're only on Facebook, you don't know. People live in their own information bubbles, and I learned that firsthand then. So Jerry Orr hears about it. He gets Channel 8 to take a satellite and do a live shot out at Valley Ranch. And then the rest of it unfolds. At the time, D Magazine, I was, by the way, hitting all the TV shows at that point. Brad Sham did a really good job giving me credit for that and saying in this big article in D Magazine about me back in 1989 or whatever, 88, 89, saying you would never think, but Chris is a one-man band over there, and I've been there at KRLD, that's how it would come out, but props to Chris. I mean, so that validated all of that because nobody wanted to. And then I was like, what Herschel told you? Herschel never did. Herschel didn't tell me. And the crazy part about it, I did tell months later, one person who was not in the media who told me. And the person who told me, my source, their whole life changed. They were no longer around.
And now
I was like,
Chris is going to drop that name here on Your Dark Companion.
I'm not going to drop the name. The person passed away of natural causes later. But it hurt me because literally when I said that person's name I realized now that the person that I told it to knew more people than I knew.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh my God. It's because that person goes, I told you not to tell us. I didn't tell nobody. You did. I said, I haven't told anybody. You did. And then she told me the person who I said, oh my God. And then that was it. That person's life just changed. And I never want to do that to anybody ever again. And I told somebody that wasn't even in the media.
All right, which is bigger?
Oh, so I was good. Jerry and Jimmy, their thing, that was big too.
You think that's bigger than the Luka trade?
The Luka trade is bigger because nobody saw it coming at all. With the Jimmy thing, you could see, and then Jimmy
what are we talking about here exactly?
Jerry and Jimmy's divorce. I call it divorce.
Okay, yeah.
When Jerry fired Jimmy, or the divorce, and that's
the only thing I can compare the Luka thing to too.
Yeah, and then I'm gonna throw this. This is minor, but it's still up there. This is how people kind of compartmentalize stuff. They forget about Nolan Ryan and John Daniels. Come on, everybody. What? You ran off Nolan?
Yeah.
We're not gonna. We're a World Series.
Yeah.
What have you done?
I hadn't even thought about that.
See?
But yeah, that was something.
People forget because it's just like. But the Luka thing is because nobody. There's always like somebody in me. Well, I can see that coming. Not on this one.
No, I couldn't see it coming, but I was not quite as eaten up with him as most people were. Mm-hmm. And I suspect that he probably was not the best teammate a lot of the time. And
I can't tell you. I don't know.
And well, I don't know either. This is just me riffing.
Right.
In addition to that, in a real twisted, perverse way, I can see why somebody who was really wanting to shake things up and really wanting to make a name for himself would do something like that. But none of that makes it right. None of that makes it right. It's still, I think it's still the biggest sports mind blow that we've ever had here.
Yes, it's way up there. Like I said, the only thing that comps to me are Tom Landry. See, people forget about Tom Landry when he got fired. People were so upset, they threw Tom Landry a parade. There was a parade downtown Dallas. It was packed.
That's true.
And it was Tom Landry and all the players who ever played for him.
But the thing about that was, though, the Cowboys were in decline.
And see, that's where you're right. That's exactly. It would be different if Tom Landry had just won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Or had just made the Super Bowl.
But they were in decline. And
people just wanted him to retire, not get fired.
It was obvious to everybody, and I'm sure it was to you, it was to me, that he was not going to be the one to rebuild the Cowboys.
Right. In fact, Tex Schramm, he told me, and he probably told a lot of people this, it's basically common knowledge. He wanted Landry to retire a year or two earlier, and he was actually really wanting to hire Jimmy Johnson. In fact, I was at a Super Bowl. You know that Super Bowl where the Bengals and the 49ers played, and Joe Montana said, "Look, there's John Candy." And then he threw the touchdown pass.
Yeah.
At that Super Bowl, Jimmy was there with Tom Landry and Tex Schramm. They were all there, and Tex was saying that he wanted to hire Jimmy one day when Landry retired. And then Landry said, "I can't leave it like this. We went 6-8, or I can't leave it like this." And Tex, oh my God, he won't leave.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, there's another coach that didn't want to leave because it wasn't right. Oh, I think it was UT's coach, Mac Brown, didn't want to leave yet, and the boosters wanted to get rid of him.
Yeah.
So
happens for everybody.
Yep.
You're a trip, man. Thank you for doing this.
No, thank you.
Great to see you again.
You too, as always. Mr. Old Gray Wolf, a.k.a. Mike Rhyner, a.k.a. my buddy, a.k.a.
Great Chris Arnold.
Hard as steel and still getting harder.
There he is, the great Chris Arnold. What do you think about that? He is one of one. This has been your Dark Companion. Thank you very much for watching today. Do I need to do anything else here?
We might need to stretch for just a moment or two. We got a little bit of technical issues, but
we do.
We're almost ready. But Chris, I'd like to know
what?
Give me your thoughts on chairs with arms.
Oh, this is one of my back is screwed up, so I have to have a chair with arms. In fact, I learned whenever I ride in somebody else's car, if it doesn't have arms, I get out of the car and my back is hurt. I actually got rear-ended on the tollway, headed to a charity celebrity golf tournament. I don't even play golf, but I was going to host that.
Yeah, but you're a celebrity.
I'm friends with Nancy Lieberman, so there she asked me to come to that thing. And somebody rear-ended me on the tollway, because you know how tollways traffic stop and go. I could see it in the rearview mirror. Went, boom. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm okay. My back locked up and found out I've got 4 herniated discs in my back.
Dude.
So I do all these stretches. I don't take steroid shots, but I know exactly how to stretch my back out every day. Go to chiropractor once a week on the regular, and I just take care of my back. But it don't like soft mattresses, and it don't like chairs without arms.
I don't like chairs without arms either.
Yeah, I'm with you.
You should enjoy a chair with good arms. All right, that's it for us. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Ashley. Thank you, Shuby. Thanks to everybody out there for watching. We would love to know what you think about what we're doing here. Hit us on social. Tell us what you think. And by the way, I should mention this. When you want to watch your Dark Companion, think YouTube first. Bye.
All right. I'm gonna go take my pants off.
Your Dark Companion is a Stolen Water Media presentation.